Welcome back to ESBR Boxing's YouTube channel. Delighted, as always, to be joined by now. We have a new WBC World Super Lightweight Champion. SUBRIEL Matias has become the first man to beat the previously undefeated Alberto Puello in New York this evening. Majority decision, three very close scorecards. Fantastic fight. Now, give us your instant reaction to what we've just seen, please.
I thought, well, I'll start with the result. I think it's gonna get a lot of people talking. I think, I personally had Puello winning the fight, but it was very close. I don't think it was a robbery or as kind of clear cut as the DAZN commentators were maybe making it out to be in the end towards Puello. I had a 115, 113 Puello, but I can't complain with the decision really because there was a lot of close rounds. Even when Puello did kind of take control in the second half of the fight, and Matias looked tired. Matias still had a lot of success. He still landed big, effective punches. But yeah, I thought it was an excellent fight. I really did. Such a relentless pace, and the peaks and troughs from both. Puello started the better with the kind of the back foot boxing, the relentless pressure of SUBRIEL and Matias, but I thought Puello dealt with it well early in terms of his footwork, constant movement when he got his back against the ropes or trapped into a corner, he was constantly thrown back, never letting Matias kind of gain a total foothold and then spinning out and then Matias it looked like, he took control in the middle rounds and it looked like there'd only be one winner then really. Puello did tire, it looked like he tired, and then he just hit a second wind in the kind of the home stretch, the final stretch of the fight. And that just, in my opinion, I thought it would have done him enough, but as I say, I can't argue. There was a lot of close rounds in there. So yeah, great fight. Really, really enjoyable fight.
Yeah, look, loved it. I think it was a shame that had to be a loser. I kind of feel like part of me was hoping it would have been a draw just because neither fighter deserved to lose. It was just such a back and forth fight. I think if you'd asked me kind of round six, round seven, who I think is going to win, would have definitely said Matias. Round 10 or 11 would probably said Puello, and then Matias has won a very close point position. And I'm glad we're not here discussing bad scorecards in the sense that no one's given either fighter two or three rounds here. They've all been very close, and it was a very close fight. However, I think most people, I'm the same as you. I had 115, 113 Puello. I think a lot of people did, but I don't think there's too much to complain about. It was such a close fight. Do you consider Matias and Puello on the same level as the top guy, like the top guys at 140? Now I'm talking, Richardson Hitchens, Devin Haney, Teofimo Lopez. Do you like, obviously we're talking about world champions here or people who are former world champions, but these two guys in the ring tonight, would you consider them to be on the same level as those guys?
It's a really interesting one, obviously, because styles make fights, and I would have considered Alberto Puello, even though he lost tonight. I know, people would say that should have got the nod, but I'd more consider Alberto Puello on that level of the other fighters. Of course, he's already beaten Gary Russell, who looked extraordinary last time out. And I just think stylistically he has the potential to give a lot of those world champions, really hard time with his kind of awkwardness, being southpaw, rangy, quick, attributes like that. There is, of course, great champions in the division, but I think Puello could have given them a lot of problems. And then Matias, even though he's won tonight, not so much. I love watching Matias in terms of his aggression, his heavy-handedness, but he does an awful lot wrong. He's technically quite poor, to be honest with you. He's so flat-footed, he's so square on, he doesn't move his head. So I think the likes of a Gary Russell, Teofimo Lopez, Richards and Hitchens could really put on a masterclass if they're on their game, put on a masterclass against the likes of a SUBRIEL Matias. But then again, saying that, how do you how do you just stop that kind of come forward, non-stop, relentless pressure? He just never stops coming forward. Yeah, so I think, funnily enough, favorably, I'd favour Puello more, but Matias is always going to be in fun fights whether he wins or loses.
Yeah, look, it's such a fantastic division, isn't it? So it's got to be one of your favorite one of your favorite divisions in boxing, hasn't it? You just hope kind of yeah, you hope to see some big fights in the next 12 months. But it's just one of those tonight. I just think Puello, I hope, comes again and gets a big fight in his next fight. Matias, on the other hand, now, his next fight's already been announced. It looks like immediately. Dalton Smith was in the ring before the cards were announced, which I thought was a bit weird, but that's not what we that's not what we're here to talk about. He's yeah been added to that November 22nd card in Riyadh. Dalton Smith will finally get his chance and challenge um the new champion. Then Matias not had too long to kind of celebrate his victory. If you ask me, I'm not a massive fan of when someone's just had a fight and a fight like that, and then they basically got to do a face off with the with the next fight. I'm not a fan of that at all. But I will ask for your opinion on it. Dalton Smith, undefeated, hasn't had too many tricky times in his career so far. Does he beat SUBRIEL Matias on November 22nd?
It's a great fight. I love that fight. Yeah, just on the him being in the ring, yeah, that looked like it was always the plan from when I seen him arrive tonight and sit beside Eddie Hearn. And funnily enough, I don't know if you noticed that I even seen during the fight that I think it was a crew member of, obviously leaning down in front of him and basically telling him you're in the ring straight after this. So yeah, it's no surprise. Dalton Smith, I'm a big fan of. I really am. I think he's so technically sharp, such a crisp puncher, good boxer. But the problem is, he's never, the opponents have been seriously lacking. They really have. And as much as, I said Subriel Matias is technically so poor, he's been through the mill with the likes of Alberto Puello, Liam Parrow, names like that. It's something Dalton Smith hasn't done. And I think, on paper, I think Dalton Smith should be too versatile, too crisp, too much of a clean puncher for him. But, if he couldn't keep the likes of a Matteo Germain, he couldn't put a dent in him. 12 over 12 rounds last time. Would he do it to Subriel Matias? I'm gonna say he just edges a decision. Um, yeah, I'd say he just edges a decision, but I don't think it'd be a huge shock if Matthias beats him. I really wouldn't.
That looks sounding like quite the card on November 22nd. Um, I'm gonna be fair and give a prediction as well. Oh man, it's a really tricky one. I will agree with you now. Dalton Smith just about, but a really tricky and fantastic fight. Sorry to be annoying. Would Dalton Smith have beaten Alberto Puello? Because we could quite easily be having that conversation instead, to be honest. Alberto Puello instead of Matias November 22nd, does Dalton Smith still win?
Again, it's very interesting because I'm gonna say no. I don't think so. Purely, styles make fights, and I think Puello just too kind of awkward, too rangy, too quick. I love his clever shot selection combination, punching. And I think it'll be a wrong style for Dalton Smith, even though he's lost tonight. It's just a crazy, crazy sport. Styles make fights. Yeah, I just think Praya would have been a bit too clever for Dalton Smith, whereas I think Matthias is going to turn out to be a bit too one-dimensional for him in the end. But again, it's not a confident prediction, to be honest with you.
Yeah, fantastic stuff. Look, we'll end it there now before we start missing fights. I'll end it there. Thank you for your time, and I'll speak to you again very soon.
Cheers, take care.